can still talk about the interesting stuff, but just steer towards problem solving.
Yeah. I mean, the whole, the music industry and I guess any artistic sort of form is always that negative, right? Because it takes, not many people make it, but I like the idea of don't give up because I like the idea that, it's something that we say to artists as well.
Yes.
It's like, hey, this isn't going to be a 3-month thing.
Right.
It's not going to get picked up on a playlist and go, for Africa and you're away. So
exactly.
It's keep honing your craft. And
well, we often talk about the old industry versus the new industry, and a lot of the time, and I've done it too, we've talked about the old industry as if it was better and the new industry as if it's worse.
Yeah.
A lot of people who have been around a long time have also pointed out the old industry wasn't great either.
No. But you just saw all the ones that benefited from the old industry.
Exactly, it's how history is written, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to talk to you because you've straddled both of those industries in many ways.
Yeah.
Because you started in a record store, is that right?
Yeah, I actually started with Bobby Kennedy in a record store in Christchurch, and that was coming from not knowing what the hell I wanted to do for a job.
Yeah, right.
And
no idea at all.
No. I think I left school and did Taipatuni music composition course in Greymouth, just because I enjoyed playing guitar.
Right, cool, awesome.
I loved playing in bands and stuff like that, and thought, oh, well, that's my next step. No idea of a career and didn't care.
Yeah.
Didn't care. Didn't care.
Just weren't faced.
Well, I was literally just trying to find not so much where the next party was, but, kind of like, well, how do I enjoy what I'm doing right now?
Right, yeah.
And, I grew up on a farm, so it wasn't like I was going to go, okay, I'm going to play guitar and stay on the farm and raise sheep.
Yeah. That's interesting. So because you're sort of not in the city, let's say, does that mean that you felt like it kind of is not possible anyway, so whatever? Yeah,
it was a massive part of just wanting to get out and do music.
Yeah.
And not exactly go and write music. It was more about the performer stuff, like look at me, you know.
Yeah.
And that's because I grew up on a farm. I travelled 20 k's to get to school every day,
right? Yeah.
And there was a very limited friend group in the small town that we were based in.
Yeah.
I was class clown at school because look at me, and so that was the main thing. It's like, how do I get into a group of people that want to play some music and I can go to bars and play and people can see me.
Yeah. And you didn't get the bug when you started doing that? It starts off being for fun, but then you didn't think, well, actually I could be, rich and famous and...
No, I never thought that because I always saw people that wrote music and wrote their own songs, and I just felt I could never do that.
Really?
I tried and I didn't give it enough attention, I don't think.
Right, yeah.
But, it's a running joke with Bob and other friends, that they're the musicians and I'm, just a guy that can play guitar.
That's interesting because I mean, for whatever reason I really genuinely don't know, I was fearless when it came to writing songs, and I think that's probably all you need is just the desire to do it and just to not consider that you couldn't do it.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Because no one's saying you have to write a good song.
No, it's the critique though. The critique on yourself is the biggest thing, and that.
Right.
I would hammer myself going, no, that's terrible. No, look, you're copying that, riff structure or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And that was it. And it's like, okay, well, I can't.
If only you'd known, that's what all songwriters do.
Yeah. I've known what I know now. Gosh. And I've even thought about that today, like going, should I actually just start writing? Because there's so much, software and stuff you can use to actually create something cool.
You should, because the great thing about writing is that it doesn't, no one even needs to hear it. It's just such a fulfilling thing to do, It's so satisfying. 5
years from now, it all started on this podcast.
That's right. But the other trick about songwriting is just writing a lot of songs. That's really the art of it. You don't try and write the great song on the first song. You write thousands of songs.
That's such a good thing to put across people. And that was something even Bobby said to me. It was all about working your music muscle.
Yeah, that's right.
And your muscle will grow bigger and better and
you develop an instinct. Like clumsy rhymes and obvious chord changes and all that kind of stuff. You actually need to try them all out to get a feel for them. And then with experience, eventually you don't even think about it that hard. You just go, not that. This, change this word, move that chord. And you just get better and better at it.
Yeah.
And I think if you intellectualize it too much, you actually do kill it. So you need to just do it a lot to build it into your instincts.
Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully eventually it comes.
Yeah. I think that's true for music in general, though. Like, I mean, people who say, I had a conversation with someone recently about this when they said, I have no musical bone in my body. I definitely could not play music. And I think that's absolutely incorrect. I think anybody can play music as long as they're able-bodied.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, someone showed me a clip the other day of someone playing the guitar with their feet because they had no arms. You know, so even that's not a barrier.
Yeah, it's a passion to learn.
Yes.
I guess, and I mean, I got forced into guitar.
Right.
Well, you know, I loved music, but I got forced into guitar because my stepfather at the time helped a guy fix his car because he was a mechanic, and he fixed his car, and he said, "I've got no money." And he goes, "Well, what's your trade?" He goes, "Well, I play guitar and I teach guitar." He goes, "Cool, teach my stepson."
Wow, that's cool.
And that was awesome. So
I mean,
I
did you
gave
actually
6
want
months.
it though? Or was
I was you know, keen as a what was I, 12?
Right. Yeah.
Going, oh yeah, it'd be good to learn guitar, but not, you know, dying to get into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then so I went to this guy's house every Wednesday, and he started teaching me. And after that, you know, when you cross that 6-month barrier on learning something, it might have been 3 months for you, bro, because you're quite a good guitarist. But you know, and then you start doing your own thing, and you can play pretty much any song that you put on the record.
Absolutely,
record player.
Yeah.
Back in those days. So that's how I got into that. But
you're totally right about that, eh? Like when you start off, like everything's hard. You can't do any. It's pretty hard. Like getting over that first hump is really important because then you've got a few chords that are easy, and now the next bunch of chords that are difficult. It's okay, but I can do the other ones.
Yeah.
And you know, you just got a bit going. You've got some momentum. So you're totally right. When you get over that hump, you're on your way.
Yeah. And you know, we can say that to people wanting to learn guitar, but as soon as they think about trying to learn piano, I'm like, no way. Look, these hands are doing completely different weird
Your
things.
mindset flips back to the...
Yeah. It's like, oh, man.
So I actually kind of envy what you're saying about being a teenager without any great plans apart from like, where's the party? I was so stitched up with ambition that I almost forgot to be a teenager in some way. So I'm kind of envious of you, how you describe yourself as being a little bit like, well, see what happens.
Yeah, it was... Yeah, I don't know why. There was no... Well, I think it was because of school. There was nothing at school for me. I was class clown, didn't learn anything, and just wanted to hang out with people because I was so secluded, you know, growing up on the farm.
Yeah.
And that's why I went to Greymouth. There was another mate going. We went and did that. It was awesome course. I think I ended up, to be honest, getting kicked off it because I was smoking drugs all the time and you know, I just went through that little rebellious phase of like, oh, cool, everyone's doing this marijuana and it's great. And so, and then it was just playing in bars. So I was in the independent youth benefit, I think, getting $120 a week, and then I was playing 2 nights a week at a couple of pubs in Greymouth.
Earning a bit from that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how far the tax implications go back if I do tell you what I was earning.
I'm sure you're safe now, right? I mean, what are we talking, 25 years or something?
25 years, yeah. Yeah, it should be right. Yeah, so I think we were getting like $100 each a night, you know, so 4 in the band, it was about $450. We paid for the PA, $50 for the PA.
So you're doing 2 of those, that's $200 plus the $120 from the other thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that could live off
great
that.
money.
In the late 90s, you could live off that.
Yeah.
It seems crazy now, eh? You couldn't even do your shopping for that.
No. That is exactly my shopping bill. 3 kids.
Yep.
So that was a pretty good life. But after that, it was, you know, I met my first wife and we moved to Christchurch, and she was the one who was like, right, what are you doing with your life? And I thought, oh crap, somebody's making me, you know,
someone's pushing me.
Yeah, better do something. So I think I did a travel agent course and did that, thinking that would be a good lifestyle to get into, and didn't do anything with it, and got into the music stores, and that's where I met Bob.
I can see the attraction, by the way, to the travel agent thing. I mean, cheap flights and...
Yeah, and let's just get it right. But didn't realise how much it paid, which it pays nothing, and probably still pays nothing today.
Yeah. Is that because people are so attracted to the job because of the cheap flights?
Well,
they can pay them dirt.
It was something like a commission structure, so you've got to get, you know, your regular clients always travelling, and then you're sweet. But to get up to that stage, you're probably, I don't know, half of what a normal small wage should be.
Right. So how much was working the record store? How much was it like the movie High Fidelity? That's the fantasy, right?
It is the fantasy, but the reality was I think there was probably one store in Christchurch, which was Riccarton Mall, which was busy enough that it had that sort of high fidelity thing going on.
Right. Yeah.
Bobby and I started in St Albans, which is just a small store, older customer. It had a few rest homes around the place, so we're selling some pan flute stuff.
Yeah.
So nothing like high fidelity, but behind the counter, I think we you meet like-minded people who probably as well don't know what they're doing, but really love music and work in a store. And you have your jokes about what people are buying and people walking through the front door and going, I know exactly what they want.
Really, yeah. Because I worked as a bank teller once before I became a full-time
natural
musician.
progression,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And what I found really interesting was the discrepancy between people's appearance and their the state of their finances. When you punched in their details, you got a bird's eye view on the screen of all of their whatever they had and their debt and whatever.
Yeah.
And someone would walk in really well presented in a suit and the whole sort of thing. Yeah. And you'd open the screen, you're like, whoa, they're in big trouble. And then some surfer guy'd walk in, barefoot, whatever. You'd assume he had nothing, and he's like super like organized.
Yeah.
And it really taught me not to judge a book by its cover,
Yeah.
So do you have the equivalent in the record store, like some like hardcore dude walks in and buys like the soundtrack to Sound of Music?
Yeah, you do get that. You do get that, but quite often I don't know, there's a wanky thing about a music store worker.
Yeah.
And, there's always that, they didn't actually know what they wanted. If you were wrong, it's like, they don't know.
Yeah.
They should really be listening to this. And, I think everyone who started out working in the music stores, would sort of think that way.
Right.
And it was sort of cultured across. And it became a real struggle later on to try and get people out of that, as both Bobby and I sort of moved up the chain in that. To different positions. We were trying to lead the growth of the chain of stores.
Yeah.
And the biggest challenge I think I had when it came to what do we have? We had about 230 staff across the country. Was just getting them to say hi. It's massive. Like, that whole stuck behind the counter sort of waiting, filling in, like, you had to card every CD and put it in a drawer.
Right.
And that was your big job. And, like, not even looking up and acknowledging a customer coming over was so
And I suppose a lot of, would I be right in saying a lot of the staff were attracted to that job because they're also musicians or into music or whatever?
Yeah.
And that tends to attract the introverted, sort of weirder,
quirkier
the
characters. Creative types.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like me. I would also not like to say hi to a customer.
Well, it's exactly that. It was all those people, and you get the odd sort of person who would end up managing a store, and they'd really try and push that customer service thing.
Yeah.
But just we even did a sort of internal campaign to reward people for saying hi. Just make sure you just walk out, pretend you're putting away a CD, and say, "Hey, how you going?"
Right.
Not even say, "Hey, what are you looking for?" It's like, "Hey, how you going?" But yeah, it's still amazing time, growing up in that sort of environment, and people are so cool. Everyone's different. They're all sort of creative. They've all got some weird journey that they're on, and this is helping to barely fund it.
I do miss the culture of record stores. I miss the idea of talking to the person behind the counter and then saying, no, don't get that album. Get the, pre-1973 they weren't any good. You have to get the 75 album or whatever. That sort of conversation. Yeah. It was great, and it opened you up to all sorts of stuff. Like if you didn't know anything about jazz but you were interested, because when I was like 18 or something, I got really into jazz, but I didn't know where to start because I didn't grow up with any of it. So I had no point of reference. And I found my way in through a couple of kind of strange angles. But, often it would be the person at the record store that would get me on the right one, because if you start at Bitches Brew, you're never going to like jazz.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
You're going to take a route down the drug scene for quite a long time. Probably.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big thing. Even, we quite often would watch people come in the store and go, I reckon they're going to love this, and you put it on. And then they'll wander up to the counter and go, hey, what's this playing?
Wow, that's cool.
Like, it was such a good... I'm sure I sold... Bobby will tell you I didn't, but it was something like 4 or 5 Finley Quay.
Yeah.
Maverick A Strike, that album. Mm-hmm. Just based on playing a couple of tracks off that, in the one go from different people. And it's like just hearing something amazing and going, oh, wow, what's that? That's what I miss, like the music store thing. I haven't been into music stores in a long time. I went to see Roger Marbeck and pick up an old record that I knew that only he would have, and it was cool. It was cool walking back there because his shop's the same. It's like, you know.
Do you mean in the present?
Yeah.
Present day? Oh.
Yeah. So Roger Marbeck down at Queen Street. He's still, sorry, no plug.
Yeah, that's all good. I'm pleased to hear he's still there.
Yeah,
I haven't heard his name for a while.
And still a lot of the same old crowd that is working with him too.
Yeah,
so
cool.
Yeah, and it was a bit of a moment walking in and go, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Record store. Yeah. This is cool.
We went to the new Real Groovy store a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And similar. I mean, you know, it was nice to just walk around, look at all the vinyl, and
yeah.
I bought a pile like this big, all for like
Did you?
$1 each. Kind of from the sales bin. Yeah. Oh, not new. Jeez,
is this podcast making heaps of money? What's going on? How do I get into this business?
No, new vinyl's expensive, man.
Yeah, I know. It's huge. I think I was paid $50 for this record. Roger gave me a little bit of a discount, but yeah, I was going, man, they never would have paid that back in the day.
No, I'm really into finding random stuff. Like I've gotten much more into South American music recently. Oh, yeah. And I just basically went through the sales bin, knowing that no one else is probably going to buy this stuff. And I just found like all sorts of weird, like guitar albums and choirs and it's just like anything South America, including up in Mexico, that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I just bought. I've been playing it ever since. It's just the best music. I'm just in love with South American music now. Some of it's really old as well, and it's all wobbly and not recorded really well. But it's just super uplifting and fun to listen to.
And are you buying it? This sounds stupid, but you're buying it with the intention of, you know, just sticking it on, having a listen, and having a beer or coffee. Yeah. Or are you sort of like looking for, hey, this is cool how they did this, or this is something different? Oh, no. A musical venture that I've never sort of been through?
Because I work in music, I don't always need to be listening to music when I'm not working.
Yeah.
I sort of get a bit overdosed with it.
Yeah.
So I'm either just like listening to podcasts or nothing, or I'm listening to stuff that's miles away from what I do.
Yeah.
And so I've got a record player in the other room, and I've got speakers in the other room, plus it's wired up to speakers in the kitchen as well. So we'll often put a random album on, and we'll just be, you know, on a Sunday, the music will just be around the house, you know.
Yeah.
And it'll be some beautiful, you know, Argentinian, you know, 1970s fusion album or something.
Yeah. Do you know that there's that really cool feeling of doing that, and I don't know, when you hear it, you go, I worked hard to find this, or, you know, I miraculously found this in a store or whatever, and that's the thing that you just don't get, I feel, from sticking your Spotify on or something like that.
Yes.
So, you know, the record I went to buy, by the way, it was an old record that I already knew. It was Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Deja Vu, which isn't, it's very hard to find.
Right.
And I grew up on that album.
Yeah.
And it was just, and putting that on and just, you know.
Have you heard the debates that have been going on in the scientific world about whether or not we have free will? Whether free will is an illusion or not? Pretty heavy subject.
Whoa. I haven't. I stay away from all that. Do you know what I do?
Why is that?
No. Not for any reason that it's not interesting to me. It's more about, God, I just don't have the time to fall into the rabbit holes. And the other thing is, I've got Bobby Kennedy who will give me a bullet point of what's going on, right?
Bobby's good at rabbit holes.
Oh, yeah. He could go He could go through them for nights. We lived together for a long time, and it's like, man, he can stay in his room for 3 days.
Well, I mean, I'm not taking us into it properly, but it's relevant.
Here we go.
It's relevant to what we're talking about. But some people are arguing that free will is more of an illusion because we're so influenced by everything around us at you know, every level, that when we're making a decision, it feels like we're making a decision, but the decision was arguably already made. Yeah. And if the same thing played over and over and over, we would always make the same decision, you know?
Yeah.
Which is, the more you hear them argue it, I'm not sure if I did very well just then, but the more you hear smart people talk about it, the more you kind of go, oh yeah, maybe I don't have free will. Yeah. Maybe I just feel like I do.
It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And you can sort of get it straight away.
Yeah.
And that whole idea of going into a music store and finding something. You know, when you go shopping physically anyway, you are sort of being push things. It's
Yes.
sort of merchandising and marketing tactics to get you to buy whatever. But yeah, it's nothing like
Yes.
what happens online.
Plus everything that all the conversations you've had recently and people you've seen, and you haven't, it's not on a conscious level, but you saw someone wearing a cool jacket and or something, or whatever it was, and it then informs you to make a decision when you walk into that store. But one of the reason why I brought that up is because one of the examples they used were algorithms, and how algorithms, they don't expand your experience, they actually narrow your experience, because the algorithms are saying, this is what you seem to like, here's more of it. And they're actually arguing that's a version of us even losing our free will even more.
Yeah.
we're supposed to see that as like, oh, it's really helpful, that's suggesting other things I'm going to like.
It is.
But
It's
actually
horrible.
what it is limiting your experiences, because pre-streaming, how did we find new music pre-streaming? It was people we knew usually, right? Saying, check this out.
Yeah, you did, or it was pushed pretty hard through the TV.
Yes.
That was they were marketing it to you, but nothing like what's available today.
Right.
So it was your friend or your peers or somebody at work was saying, "Have you?"
And that could
listened to
be
new album?"
anything. Like when my mum told me, have you heard of this guitar player who can make his guitar talk? And if she was, of course, telling me about Peter Frampton.
Yeah.
I don't think Spotify would have told me that. When I was like...
Talking guitar guy, yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but how do you cross genres and
Yes.
listen to something else? Like it is really interesting. It's interesting being like doing what I'm doing at the moment, and that is we're listening to everything that comes through, because it all goes through my personal Spotify, and so I'm listening to every song from every genre that comes through our...
What, everything that DRM puts out, you actually listen to?
Oh, yeah, I try. I really try.
That must be insane amounts of music.
It's a huge amount.
Do you listen to our new record?
No, not yet. I knew you were going to ask that too.
So not everything.
I've got a big pile of stuff, and basically I've got, we've got playlists and stuff that we do, and disco pages that we've got to get through. And I've just come back from holiday, so that's my excuse.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
3 weeks away. Must listen to. On the algorithm side of things, that's quite good, because it doesn't really. I mean, it will still hone in. These algorithms are pretty tight, right? But I still get sort of forced into a little peg hole. But there's other bits and pieces going on from what I do listen to.
Yeah.
The whole free will thing. You're totally right. The not on music, but on things like I've gone down YouTube rabbit holes a lot.
Yep.
And it's really interesting finding the whole. I'm somehow pitched to them as a slightly right wing.
Oh, really?
Which
How did you do that?
well, I think it was through. I probably watched a fair bit of Jordan Peterson.
Oh my God!
And then that.
We got to talk about that.
Oh mate, I watched a lot, but then it starts throwing me everything else. So it's like Ben Shapiro, and watching this whole, this is like a buzzword, but the whole Trump scenario over time, and I was watching that, go, oh my God, this guy, what the hell, back in when he first took office, and then. You can feel all the stuff being pushed at you is going, oh, okay, maybe he's not so bad. You even in your head going, maybe he's not so bad. And then you click out of it and go, what the hell? Just listen to this other bit that he's just done. But, the algorithm is, honing in and go, oh, this guy likes a bit more of this stuff over here. So he's probably that sort of supporter.
Yep.
So
I've noticed that too. My partner keeps putting Paw Patrol on for our daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And then we just get all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, God.
In the middle of Paw Patrol, it's like, vote Trump.
Right-wing Paw Patrol.
Those bloody cartoons, yeah.
So what do you think of Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, God, we are getting away from the music stuff, but
this podcast tends to be quite disorientated.
I don't know. I'm unashamedly really supportive of what he does, and it's I think just a real voice for. What does he say? A real voice for young men and where not being beaten down by whatever's happening in society today, but how they can sort of think about where they can go, and tackles heaps of issues now that he's sort of an expert around the world on talking. Yeah. But yeah, I think I listened to quite a lot of his stuff, and not. I mean, I tried to read his book, The 12 Rules, and just got no, this is too deep for me, and I'm not smart enough to actually, get as much out of this. I'll just go back to YouTube.
Go back to Paw Patrol.
But no, I really enjoy all the stuff. The way he tackles it all, like it's smart and sophisticated. He's not having a go at the person. He's having a go at why the person's trying to pull him into some, soundbite that they're trying to get out of him and stuff like that. So a very smart guy. He's got a good message, and he knows how to get it across and fight people that might not agree with him. So
yeah.
I
have mixed feelings on him. I mean, I can see his appeal. I find him really interesting because I can see the appeal.
Yeah.
And the ideas that he came out with first that I think launched him really were that kind of what was the book called again? 12 Steps to something.
Yeah.
Or 12 Rules for Life.
12 Rules for Life. Yeah.
And the idea that get your affairs in order, make your bed, tidy your room, that sort of stuff, which is, it's kind of common sense.
Yeah.
But it has sort of been forgotten a bit by modern generations, I think.
Yeah.
It's probably more our grandparents that were really good at that stuff.
yeah, it was. It was. I remember a time in my life when I was in Greymouth, and it was partying and drugs and all that sort of stuff. And I remember coming back at 2 a.m. in the morning to my room, and it was a pit.
Right.
I said, man, I've just got to change. And I cleaned my whole room up folded everything in drawers. And
sometimes when I feel overwhelmed at work, you just those days was like, there's so many things to do and I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
I'll actually just carve out half an hour or so and just organize everything, tidy out my desk, make lists, put things in sort of priority order and that sort of stuff. And actually when you're really busy, taking that time out and getting things sort of organized, it makes the whole day go better. It gives you a different sense of like peace and ease.
It's like you take the 7 to-do lists that you've written over the last 4 weeks and haven't completed them all, consolidate them into one, start again.
Exactly. If you've got a clear bird's eye over everything, you tend to be calmer about it, I think. But I lose Jordan Peterson on a couple of things. I've watched a lot of debates with him with people like Sam Harris, which are pretty frustrating to watch. And
they are frustrating.
Yeah, they're frustrating. I think he has a good message. Jordan has a good message on a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Like, there are some worrying statistics out there now about young men not really knowing how to be in the world and rates of depression and all sorts of stuff, because obviously they're not really in the conversation in so many ways, which is, these days it's not even saying that is almost controversial, right?
I know. I feel my,
you could
come up
tensing up,
shit, we're talking about this.
There's a sniper or something. But I mean, the stats are real, and that's the thing. I mean, I know that there are other important issues that need to be talked through, but these are still people that are alive and need to figure out their place in the world. So I can see why Jordan Peterson's message resonates with them. What I don't like about him is that I think somebody who's looking for any kind of answer or clarity or whatever should be simplifying their point rather than filling it up with more words. It should be taking the acronyms and the big words out and making it accessible, which is one of the reasons why Richard Dawkins was so successful with the Selfish Gene, his famous book, because he made it understandable to the public. It wasn't just written for scientists. And when you see Jordan debating Sam Harris, and Sam's really good at like breaking things down to like, so the summary is boom, 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 boom. And Jordan starts then talking for like 3 hours. With lots and you just when you said
it's not that easy.
Exactly. It's not that like, do you believe in God? Well, it depends what you mean by God.
What is God?
17. I'd have to talk for 3.5 hours to explain what. No, that's the wrong way. So I actually just fundamentally disagree with his style of reasoning. And when you said before that it gets a bit deep, I don't know if it gets deep or if it just gets lost.
You're probably right. And what I was saying about the book, it's absolutely to your point. If he, particularly the group that he's trying to get to as well, like, I mean, I feel I'm okay and smart and stuff, smart enough to read a book, but that was that was too much. I wasn't getting the message out of it. And if I'm not that I'm above anybody, but if it's pretty hard to read, then I think people are going to struggle, and that's absolutely to your point. So it's it's a good observation.
Auckland guitar lessons are ideal for both beginners and experienced players. The lessons are focused towards learning good technique while having fun and enjoying the experience. Lessons are one-on-one and individually adapted to the student's personal goals and musical preferences. All the fundamentals of technique and theory are covered within the context of songs, which helps people progress faster and makes the experience more enjoyable. If you've always dreamed of playing the guitar, or if you've been playing the guitar for a while and you feel like you've plateaued, Auckland Guitar Lessons can help unlock your playing, renew your confidence and drive, and help you make significant progress. Visit aucklandguitarlessons.co.nz and email them at info@aucklandguitarlessons.co.nz. That's become a big part of my character because when I was a teenager, I had no idea how to get into music or how the business worked or anything like that. And I left school pretty early and I was just sort of in the world, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
And so a large part of my life has become about not only problem solving and working things out and whatever, but it's also been trying to understand what's going on. And the music industry is a pretty confusing place.
Yeah.
And I think there's dynamics in the music industry which are unique to the music industry. One of them being that we have romanticized ideas of the business when we come up as musicians.
Yeah.
And we perhaps have read books and watched documentaries about what it was like in the 60s or something.
Yeah.
And those representations are never 100% accurate, but it's also no longer the 60s.
Yeah.
And so we come into a modern version of whenever we start in the business, trying to operate as if it's like 30 years earlier, instead of the more normal kind of business approach in any industry would be to go into it just objectively and just look at the numbers and look at the opportunities and that kind of stuff, right? And just sort of react to your environment. But we tend to run into the music industry with all of these ideas, and then one by one our ideas get knocked around because half of them aren't based on anything.
Yeah. Also artists are generally quite creative and sort of want to shy away from looking at. There's a big generalisation, by the way. So,
yeah, of course, yeah.
But they shy away from that side of things. It would be taken care by, whether it's my label or my manager or something like that, or if it's just me, then I'll put it through DistroKid or something like that, and it'll all happen.
Yeah.
And I'll focus on making really good creative. But yeah, if you came into it like you're saying, I think you'd have much more realistic view on where you're going to be in a year, 2 years, 5 years,
right,
etc. Rather than being, and then you're not in the don't give up world because you're actually on track with whatever the plan you had in your head was.
Yeah.
It's so hard seeing people because they put so much into it, and it's your creative art getting into a form where people can hear it, see it, and then it's cost a lot of money in a lot of cases, and then it gets out there and it's no one's listening, no one's seeing.
Yeah.
And that's really hard.
Yeah.
But if you knew, okay, it's going to be like that. It's not like the 60s. Did you ever see that was it Frank Zappa doing that interview? And he's just talking about how he loved when it was just the fat cat at the label, and he'd just go, yeah, I'm listening to it. I don't know if anyone's going to like it. Let's just throw it out there and see what happens.
Exactly, yeah.
And then he was saying when the young, hippies came in and they started listening and stuff and go, no, the kids won't like that. He was like, this industry's buggered.
There is a lot of speculation and assumption made from artists. Like, I think you're right, by the way. I think that it's not natural for a creative person to be also business-minded like that. I think there are plenty of examples of people who are like that. But I think one of the reasons, though, is that they actually genuinely don't know the way forward. And maybe there isn't a way forward. I wonder whether, is there a way forward that these people don't realise, or is there not a way forward and they just need to accept that and figure out a different model for their careers?
Ooh, is there a way forward?
So a young artist who's worked hard and sunk money into their project has now put their album out and is out playing shows and so on.
Yeah.
What should they realistically expect to achieve by putting their music on streaming apps? Should they see it as a lost leader, or is there some other legitimate goal there?
Well, it's kind of the I don't know. There's different musicians that get into it, where okay, we're going to record it, we're going to put it on there, and hopefully it does what it does. But I love getting out there and playing my music live and all that, and that's what I'm keen on doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of them are again, generalisation. Most of them are wanting to stick it out onto Spotify. Everyone says Spotify, even though there's hundreds of other.
Yeah, Spotify
streaming
represents
platforms.
like 400 platforms or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Spotify, and stick it on there, and they're hoping that somebody hears it and goes, "Yeah, this is awesome," and then that triggers off that whole effect of bringing in some money. But it's there's 120,000 tracks going up every day now.
Is that right?
Which is just
100. Is that global?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So so there's a lot of being lost in the weeds going on, like never before, right?
Is there anything real in the idea that a track will be discovered? I mean, I know that playlists are a big thing these days, which I've never even looked into, but the idea that a song gets added to a playlist and suddenly it takes off, is this just like winning the lottery, or is this actually?
No, it's in some cases like there's playlists that people get put onto. There's a New Music Friday playlist that is on Spotify that everyone gets excited about, and they're generally not that great. There might be you might get a few streams off that, but then next week it's on to the next week's releases.
Right.
The ones that are really interesting is where you get a playlist that is either it's genre specific or usually genre specific, and it might not even have a lot of followers compared to some of the big Spotify ones, but they're really dedicated listeners.
Okay. Yeah.
And we've had things happen where some radio guy in the US would have heard something on some weird little playlist that he was a part of, and then he did a little spiel on it
Right.
in his YouTube channel, I think. And that track's up to 1 million streams now, which it probably amazing track, but probably wouldn't have got there without that.
Yeah.
And that was all hit from just probably seeing it on a small genre-based playlist that wasn't a Spotify one.
I like that idea of a proper interactive audience rather than big numbers.
Yeah.
Because when you go, oh, this playlist has got millions and millions of followers or whatever it might have,
Yeah.
versus this one that's got a much smaller amount, but they're actually into what you're doing and it actually connects,
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing I've thought about with someone who says, I've had 1 million streams on my single. Obviously, we know that doesn't pay as much as some people might think. But but the other thing is, and I've argued this a lot on the podcast, what does this convert to? Because if those 1 million people are spread around the world, it's not like you can tour that. You've got 5 people in Russia and three people in the Philippines. You know what I mean? And so on.
Yeah.
That's where the old business made more sense in some ways, because if you were able to focus on Hamilton and build up a bit of a buzz there, and go there and play a small venue and then next time play a slightly bigger venue and so on, and you sort of conquer Hamilton, and then you go, right, next stop, Tauranga or something, and you go and do the work there, and you start to progressively make a name for yourself around the country, and no one in Russia knows you, but that's okay because you're not in Russia.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that it was sort of more logical.
Yeah, there's some really weird stuff that happens geographically. Like you say, if you get 1 million streams, it's all over the world, and some random people have picked it up. Great, they got 1 million streams, but you can't tour with that. There's still the same sort of basis as the old industry where people say do well in your home territory and that will grow, and it's kind of what's almost been mandated in a way by streaming platforms, where they almost geographically lock you into playlists that are in your geographic.
Oh, is that right?
And New Zealand artists get locked into a sort of Aussie, New Zealand type geographic anyway.
Is that also affected by what they're suggesting to whoever? They're going to we're likely to get more stuff
in
from
terms
Australasia?
of the algorithmic push to people. No, I think they say no.
Okay.
Because, and it shouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
It should be like, somebody, the algorithm says this person will like this. It shouldn't matter whether they're in Poland or
Totally. Yeah.
or Hamilton.
Yeah.
But in terms of your playlist, where everybody, hoping to get some playlist action, which will give them a bit of a boost, that kind of gets geographically locked.
Interesting.
So, you'll have American playlists that Spotify run that, have, 1 million or 2 million followers, right? So you get a song on there.
Yeah.
And we've had some artists get tracks on there and they're like, that does give you a big boost. But it's very rare that they do get onto those.
Right.
And you sort of see it from both ways. Spotify's point of view is like, how the hell do they get 120,000 tracks onto, various playlists across the world. But
every day.
They've kind of had to take some structure to it, right? So it's a bit more geographical, and that is harking back to the old days. It's like, record labels do well in your home territory, and then it'll start growing from there.
Yeah. When I mentioned the you don't make as much money as you think you do from Spotify or from the streaming apps, you kind of flinched a bit. What was the flinch because of?
Oh, I was just reading that story this morning about
the recent changes.
Yeah. Because I've just come back from holiday, so I was just reading through a bunch of Billboard stuff, and that was interesting. The amount of tracks that they said were doing under 1,000 streams. This is the whole premise was, they're not going to pay out for tracks that have either done under 1,000 streams.
Yeah.
Which is, in my view, kind of good.
Right.
And the amount of tracks that there was, I can't even remember the number, but it was way more than I thought it would be.
I read the article, and do
you remember the number? It was huge.
The number of ineligible.
Yeah.
I think it was a percentage, wasn't it? Wasn't it like 10%?
Oh yeah. Okay. So
yeah, don't quote me though.
Yeah.
I skimmed the article a couple of days ago. I know that under 1,000 streams is not real money anyway, so it sort of doesn't matter if artists aren't getting paid for that.
Yeah.
Because you're arguing over like such a minute amount of cents that it doesn't. Who cares, If that frees up an amount of money to go towards the people who are getting more traction, that does make sense to me. Although I don't know if I'm going to agree with that statement in a fortnight when I've had more time to think about it.
Yeah. Well, where is that money going to go?
Well, exactly. Do you have a feeling on that?
Well, there's obviously all those big, amazing top artists right in the world.
Yeah.
That have the majority of the streaming. It's so hard to point and go, oh, this is what they should be doing, because it is such a fast changing. And I'm not even trying to appease Spotify. It's just I look at it from both ways. Like you, I want to try and work out things and how they work and why they do things, and you got to take it from two angles and go, well, they're doing it because of this. They're receiving it because of this, and it's like, I'm not sure what Spotify could be doing differently if they compartmentalise that money and it only went to, up and coming or something like that. Like, that would be really cool.
Well, it's worth mentioning that, Jay-Z started Tidal, right?
Yeah.
With the intention of making the better version, but then it didn't work.
Yeah.
I use Tidal. I really like it as a platform, but it's not that much better than any of the other ones. I think they pay slightly more. But not enough to really celebrate, and it just didn't seem like it was a successful venture. I can't remember who it was, but I did hear some like economist or someone who had reviewed the whole Spotify model and said it's just not possible for this thing to be that much different, because to get people to pay artists the sort of amount that they'd think was fair, the subscription fee to Spotify would be enormous.
Yeah.
And I'm not entirely sure if, I'm not the economist, so I don't know if that's true, because there are obviously people making huge amounts of money, and Spotify turn over massive amounts of money. So you go, well, if they're turning over billions of dollars or whatever the number is, just made that up, surely we could just spread that around. But then again, like you say, 120,000 songs a day being uploaded.
Yeah.
That spreads around pretty thin.
Yeah.
Eventually, right?
It's a huge amount.
And I wonder whether that just means because we're obviously not going to take the streaming platforms out of the culture now, because they're here to stay, I think.
Yep.
So do we now sensibly just have to go, this is where we are, it could get a bit better, but it's not going to become better enough to change our business models. So do we just see it as a loss leader, and hey, if it works out and we get a massive amount of clicks and it turns into a bit of money, that's a nice bonus, but let's steer our business models in other directions?
Yeah.
Do you think that's right?
Well, I think that's what people in New Zealand are doing.
Yeah.
It's hey, it may bring in some money one day, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that I'll be on Spotify, I'll start getting a bunch of, they're more worried about, less worried about money and more worried about having the numbers on there.
Right.
Because, if your goal is to get with a specific label overseas eventually or something like that, then, that's all they do is look at your Spotify profile. How many followers, what countries, how many streams for that song.
Yeah.
And so that's the big thing. If you're trying to profile yourself for success with, something bigger overseas later, then that's how you're trying to do it.
And that in itself raises new questions as well. What's the relevance of record companies these days? And I'm not saying they're completely irrelevant, but they're not relevant to as many artists as some might think, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't think I would particularly benefit from having a record deal at this point.
No.
Because I feel like where record labels are at their best is probably in the pop world, launching the younger sort of upcoming pop artists. For someone more like my age who's doing more of the kind of jazz, funk, rock sort of thing, that's just not what they're looking for, I think.
Yeah.
You know, and it's probably, I mean, you know, the guys that I work with, I don't think anyone involved is interested in the least in a record deal, because we're just like, well, let's, you know, treat this like a loss leader and go and play shows, and we make money playing shows. So that's our business model, you know. Yeah. And we've recorded, we are able to record a lot cheaper these days because the band happens to be made up of basically producers.
Yeah.
So I don't know how 20-year-old bands do it, but we have the luxury of being able to pull on our experience and the gear we have and things.
Yeah.
But do you agree with that statement that record companies, perhaps in the past, were way more relevant right across the board, but now that they only really seem to be worth it if you're the next potential Ed Sheeran or something?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why they're obviously so relevant in the past is because they were the marketing drive for people to hear your music, and you don't actually need that anymore because you've got all these social platforms. You've got TikTok, which is a massive, you know, if you can get some traction on that with whatever your brand is, then that's huge for your music. I mean, Spotify's a marketing platform as well. You're getting pushed, your song is hopefully getting pushed to people that wouldn't have heard it otherwise. So you can make all that stuff happen. I think the relevance of and I always look at record labels a bit differently. You've got the big majors, and then you've got all these cool
all the indies,
indies and stuff, right?
And that's actually where I could exist. The indies, yeah, totally.
That's
I wasn't really referring to them before,
yeah,
but those guys are great.
Yeah. I mean the major ones, and they're still here in New Zealand as well.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, they've got small rosters. I think Sony recently cut their roster and lost 5 or 6, 7 artists or something like that, and probably only got that many now that they work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't, like you say, if you're the next Ed Sheeran, then maybe that record label is the way to go. That
you couldn't really you couldn't build a career like even half of what he's done without having a big team behind you like that, right? Or if we talk locally, like Lord, her success, which was
Ed Sheeran was interesting though, wasn't he? He was.
I don't actually know his beginning story.
Wasn't he picked up by Jamie Foxx?
Is that right?
Well, Jamie Foxx got him into, you know, a bunch of people at a party at his house or something like that. And just listen to this guy and listen to this guy. I think it was a Graham Norton piece, and he was telling him about it. It's really, really good. But I don't know if that was the very, very start, but
at least to get up to
triggered a bunch of things. Yeah, and then it was all on from there. Lord, I mean, she's obviously what we always refer to in terms of New Zealand as such a huge success.
Yeah. But again, and that's cool, but it's not like that could have happened if she was just on her own doing it, putting stuff out on, you know, online. Like you'd have to have the team behind you, right? Yeah,
although you could get to a certain level now, I think, and then you'll have record labels scrambling over you to pick you up.
Yeah.
And there's been a couple of cases of that recently as well.
I think, though, why I'm referring to her in that context is because, as far as I understand, there wasn't that step with her.
No,
she just launched her.
Yeah, they launched her.
Yeah.
And I think it was her and Joel, right, producing. And
it's interesting, given Joel's background, a Goodnight Nurse, and
I know,
you wouldn't have expected it, right?
Yeah. They recently just put out another single the other day as well, yeah.
Oh, right.
But, and he's been hugely successful, right? He's produced so many big artists now.
I think he's been more successful, hasn't he?
Well,
he's like had billions and billions and billions of plays across all of the artists he's
worked with, when you look at that, those figures,
Yeah. Didn't he do Taylor Swift as well, and a few other people?
Yeah, but there's a massive list underneath those big artists as well, of other people he works with and stuff. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
It's very rare that that's going to happen, I think. We've just had a particular, not we, but New Zealand, there was a artist recently that had a track and that was just going viral. And this was a kind of done at home type track, and it went a bit viral, and they got picked up by a record company overseas with nothing but 1 or 2 tracks.
Yep.
And big money.
Yep.
And signed up for a few years and all that sort of stuff.
Are we going to expect to hear about that soon, or?
Yeah. It's actually nothing to do with what I work in. I just I think everybody in the industry just knows about these things as they come out. But
I remember I went into a record store in about 96 or 97. Once I finished the story, you might be able to tell me when it was. But I walked into a record store, I was buying something, and I walked up to the counter. On the counter there was some pile of bumper stickers, and on the bumper stickers it said The Feelers.
Oh yeah.
And no one knew who they were. And I looked at them, The Feelers? Like, what does that mean? And I said to the guy, what's The Feelers? And he goes, oh, they're a band. They've got an album coming out, and I think he said by next week or by 2 weeks from now, they'll be at number 1. He just sort of stated it matter-of-factly. And I was like, what? How do you know? And he goes, hey, trust me.
Yeah.
And I just walked out of the store kind of puzzled by this whole thing. Like, why would you call a band The Feelers? Like, we're so used to the name now.
Yeah.
Pretty weird name.
Yeah, it is.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But how did this guy know it was going to... And sure enough, he was right. Like a week... What was their first single? Was it Pressure Man?
Oh, was it Pressure Man? Yeah, probably was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember seeing them play the first time and just went, holy shit, this is wicked.
But do you think that guy was full of it? Or do you think that he actually knew it was about to
this is back in the old days. If there was a push from a major label in New Zealand, then they had reps everywhere.
Yeah.
So there was reps in Christchurch and all that. That would be their main thing for, it might be 2 months of pushing. And they'd be out around at every record store. They'd be talking to the head offices. They'd be, offering deals to get as much records onto shelves and placement. They'd be at radio, doing all the similar stuff happens today, but nothing in terms of the retail presence.
Right.
And I'm not saying this about the Feelers, but also back in the day there would be some, slight manipulation of the charts as well, where they could. Not.
Do you mean like a story I heard a few years ago where...
this is probably my story to Bob to you, is it?
No,
Okay,
I don't
cool.
think so. No, actually, no. I'm obviously not going to say who it is, but I am close to a pretty well-known band from back in the day, and they did a show, a reunion show that didn't go so well, and I said, why didn't it go so well? Didn't you have fans from back in the day? And the answer was, not directly from the band, but from someone who knew them really well, who said they didn't really ever have fans. The record company did a paper trail thing, and they basically bought all the albums back.
Oh, right.
So
yeah,
and I don't even know
stuff.
if the albums left the warehouse.
Yeah.
But they did the paperwork, so we sold the albums, and then we went and bought them back. And I go, why on earth would they do that? They'd lose money, right? They went, yeah, but the amount of money they lost was lower than the marketing budget they would have needed to have spent to get the album up into the charts like that. And I was like, shut up, that didn't happen. And the person I was talking to, who, again, I won't name, but they are a trustworthy industry person, said you'd be surprised that actually happened a lot.
yeah, just all of that stuff. I mean, again, like a local record label would be, if they're going to spend so much money, and they have to show a position for it because they got to report overseas going, cool, we spent this, and look, we got them to number 1. That's great.
Right.
Well done.
Yeah.
And then did all those sell through retail? No, but we didn't take them back.
Yeah.
We gave a whole bunch of free CDs of something else, and they can mark that stuff down.
Right. Yeah.
So there was all those little plays to...
And am I right in thinking that the charts back then were based on albums going from the wholesaler to the retailer, not from the retailer to the customer?
No, it was retail. They took down retail figures. So we, in every individual store, at one point, when I first started, we were writing down how many we had sold for the week and faxing them back to the charts.
I had to think for a second, what's a fax?
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
Faxing them back. So, and that was happening every week. And that's where you've got, I don't know how many record stores were there, probably 200. The warehouse was quite a big player for a bit there too. So, but individual store managers writing down figures. So you had industry reps out there going, "Do you want a 6-pack of beers or
what to bump the figures?"
Yeah,
really.
And so,
would they try to do it sort of legitimately, or would they just like add a 0 to the figure?
In some cases, it was just bump them up.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, people that hey, I might have bumped up a figure at one point in my life. 25 years ago, guys.
Yeah.
But
Statute of limitations.
but you would almost it would be like a trend.
Right.
So one rep would do it, and some stores would do it, and it would make an impact, and then all the other reps would find out for the other companies. They'd start doing it, make a trend, build up.
Yeah.
By the end of it, though, you get to sort of 6 months of doing that, and the retail store itself had been bumping up figures for so long, they were doing astronomical numbers on their charts thing. Like, we should have been,
But how do they get that to sync with the stock take? I mean, did they literally
I don't know if they did
bump the numbers and throw the CDs out, or like?
No, because that's the charts go off to an independent, right?
Right.
So New Zealand charts run the charts, etc. So we were just putting them on bits of paper that were faxed off and thrown out.
And
so our stock was our
checked.
stock, and
Right,
it was
right.
all stock taked and stuff.
Yeah. And did albums, when you'd go into those stores and see a CD for $2 or something because they were just clearing it out, did that also go against the charts, the sales stuff?
I think there was an amount that it had to sell for.
Okay.
But if you'd initially sold stuff in, and then over the 6 months we'd been fiddling the charts or whatever, then that number had already sort of passed through, even though there was still 10,000 sitting around the place.
Right.
Why not subscribe? It'll make your life better.
There was a long delay, wasn't there, before the charting world started to actually take digital activity into account.
So I left the industry at that point. I'd been at the CD store. We had 35 stores for about 10 years. And went overseas and just got into something completely different.
Yeah.
And
Cartel.
Drug cartel.
Yeah.
Yeah, Breaking Bad.
Yeah, exactly.
You
got to try things,
It's just I just want to see how it works.
Exactly. Yeah. It's much more lucrative.
Yeah. Have you got there? It's and then when I came back, I did corporate jobs for a while, and then this came up with DRM, which is the company I work at now, and coming back into that, going, oh wow, this charts is completely different. But
do you think it's fairer these days? I mean, again, we always talk about the old industry like it was better, but if there was a bit of rigging and manipulation going on in the old days, is because now it's digital, is it more honest, do you think?
It's very clean in terms of the numbers coming through are from platforms themselves, etc.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's no manipulation of them.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that if you sell some physical stuff, then they've made a multiplier that makes that number relevant to streaming in a way.
Do they really?
So you sell.
It's like a currency, like a different values of currency.
Yeah. Which is cool.
One album
which
sale is worth $1 billion.
I can't remember what the number is actually.
Right.
But yeah, and so it's done quite well. It means if you release something and does pretty well streaming, but you happen to sell 500 records in that week, then that will go towards your charts. And big ups to you, because selling 500 records is very hard to do these days.
Does it even happen these days?
Oh yeah, it
I
does.
guess
It's not very
massive
often.
Artists would probably,
Yeah, but even locals. I'm trying to think. Tom Scott from Avondale Bowling Club. Sells a bunch of records as soon as it comes out, so there's demand there. But just the fact that somebody wants to buy something physically on day one of release, that's cool that it still exists.
I forgot a question I was going to ask before, actually. Something I've often thought about and talked about on the show is that a lot of the music industry is geared towards pop music, in the sense that that's where most of the attention and celebration and interest and investment and blah 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 goes into pop music, right? But a lot of people along the way have argued that other genres have actually performed better. Like, for example, like country music has always had a thriving audience and an older audience, so more inclined to buy physical copies and so on. Perhaps this point was true in the past. I don't know if it is now. Do you have a point of view on that?
Oh, it was definitely in the past. There would be albums come out that were definitely suited to older demographic, and they had the cash, right. So these days I don't really know how much physical sells, in terms
what about just on streaming as well? Or is it just all over the map now?
Because your numbers are so, like I'm looking at numbers every week of everything in the world in terms of, what our artists have done. And so it's so hard to peg a genre and go, oh, that does really well out the gate rather than over time or something like that.
I suppose genre actually as an idea has fallen apart a bit, hasn't it? Because everything's sort of crossover and...
Yeah. What's really cool now is experimentation of music, I think, and caring less about genre.
Right.
And all those weird man, I came back from, doing corporate jobs into this and went, the hell is this genre? Like, funk and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
There were some weird genres made up that I had to have a really good listen to some of the music and go, okay, I kind of understand what that means.
That is great. I've never loved the idea of genre. I mean, when I think back to when music, and especially rock and roll, was really growing and thriving in 50s, 60s, 70s, and obviously I wasn't alive then, but it seems like genre just wasn't even considered.
Yeah.
People were just trying stuff, and that's why it just kept changing and moving and so on.
Yeah.
I think genre is something that applies in a record store when you go, which department do we put this one in? But when you're actually standing there with the band writing or recording, I think thinking genre is a horrible idea.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, because I think you need to be thinking what's going to make the song cool, what's going to best serve the music, unless I guess you're trying to strategically put something together for a certain purpose. But if you're just a band, you should just forget all of that stuff and just write and just create, right?
Yeah. But of course, everybody labels into something, right?
Exactly.
Like, we all have to kind of label into something.
Yeah.
Whatever your hard work and the band's hard work of putting something together and not caring about genre.
Right.
Everyone in the industry then goes and labels it into something, right?
Even when you meet people and they go, "What kind of music do you play?" And
Yeah.
And I mean, as much as you
Good
go,
music.
Yeah, exactly.
Bad music.
But I mean, also you initially think it's kind of honourable or cool to be between genres or outside of genres. I actually still think that's cool because I think it sort of validates the art a little bit. Like if it's harder to describe, it's probably more interesting. Yeah. However, we live in a world where everything basically is some version of branding and marketing, and you've got to have your thing, right? Your angle. You've got to make it easy and palatable for the audience to grasp and understand and go, I know what that is. I'm going to listen to it or buy a ticket or whatever it is. Yeah. And if the poster says, well, it's a mix of rock, funk, jazz, pop, industrial, blues, something like that, or if you have some really airy, fairy description of it, you tend to read the first bit and just glaze over and just go, I don't know what that is. Yeah. But if it's like punk rock band, be there at 8, got it. Yeah. So the world kind of requires you to stick it in a box like that.
Yeah, but you kind of need a byline, right? You need a byline for everything.
Right.
And as long as you've just got a, because this is how people recommend, hey, something I heard last week was blah, blah, blah.
Right.
What does it sound like? And I say, it's a bit like blah, blah, blah. As long as you can get that byline really crisp and, you're not just going, it's, sounds like the Foo Fighters.
Well, you have a brand whether you like it or not, right?
Yeah.
I was in a band. I was in a band a long time ago. I was probably like 20 or something. We had a saxophonist. How do you say it?
Yeah, saxophonist, isn't it?
Saxophonist.
Saxophony guy? Yeah, one of those.
A saxophony. That's fantastic.
The guy with the big thing doing the hooting. Yeah.
Saxophonist. Saxophonist.
Yeah,
that's the one. I knew that didn't feel right. And he was like purist. He was cool. He was a good friend, and we had he was in the band for a while. But he was purist, and the whole idea of like stage clothes or posing for a photo or anything like that. No, all I want to focus on is playing. And we were doing a photo shoot or something. One of the problems that we had in this band was that all of us just had completely different looks, and there was nothing in sync about us. Like one guy was Canadian and he dressed like a hockey player. Yeah. One guy dressed like Fred Durst for some reason. And I was always into the kind of the quirky but black and all that kind of stuff. And then this guy had like the bad ponytail and the old woolen jumper and I was trying to get the guys like, at least for the photos we need to sort of look like we're in the same band, and this guy was going, no, I don't care about that stuff, that's all shallow, and I remember making the point to him, I don't think I used the word brand, but you have a brand whether you like it or not. You actually have to put a little bit of effort in to make sure that brand authentically represents you, if that's what your goal is. Because just turning up in whatever you fell out of bed in, I mean, that's
which may be your brand, but
maybe that is your brand. Yeah.
Maybe it's your but just putting some thought process into it. It shouldn't be a big part of what your creative is about. But if your goal is to actually, stream it and get more and more people listening, then that does help.
Yeah. I really appreciate your time today, and I think I managed to avoid all of the subjects on the list of things that Bobby told me not to bring up.
Oh, cool.
Including thumbs.
Yeah.
When he sent that email, I had no idea what it was about. So I
Yeah.
was just like, I guess Bobby's just being really random. And then yesterday he told me the story.
Oh, did he tell you?
Which I know we can't talk about on here.
Oh, right. Yeah, you
I
know,
was
but there's probably another podcast that we could do that would cover that sort of stuff. But yeah, how to effectively end a board meeting. I reckon would be quite a well
board meeting run by Christians who own the company. And what's exactly the wrong thing to say?
Okay, meeting over, done.
As soon as Bobby told me that, I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna love this guy.
Oh yeah, definitely mellowed down a lot since then. So yeah,
I hope not too much. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Cool, bro. Thanks for having me on.